Hiya, let's talk marriage.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
The Bible has a lot to say on marriage. Christianity teaches that marriage is not just a contract between man and wife, but also a contract between humanity and God. Right now there is a battle going on over how we should define marriage, and many people believe that marriage should be defined the way God intended marriage to be defined, traditionally, between a man and a woman. After all, since it's a holy sacrament, then it seems obvious that the best marriage is one that is done through Christ. I'd like to ask you right now, do you believe that through Christ is the way to create the strongest marital bond between husband and wife? And without Christ, can a marriage truly be as successful? Unfortunately for Christians, the answer is yes. A study that came out in 1999, in fact, showed that it's pretty much the exact opposite. The Christian denominations that are the most vocally pro-marriage, the ones that argue for traditional biblical marriage, in fact have the highest divorce rates. And the ones that actually have the lowest divorce rates are atheists and agnostics. According to the Barna Research Group, evangelical Christians had a 34% divorce rate. Baptists came in at 29%, mainline Protestants at 25%, and atheists and agnostics came in at 21%. That means that atheists and agnostics have 2/3 the divorce rate of evangelical Christians. To be fair, Catholics and Lutherans also had a 21% divorce rate, but again, we're talking about the ones that are the most vocal about traditional marriage, and while the Catholic Church is sort of there, I don't think they're anywhere near where the likes of Pat Robertson are. But why is this the case? Is it really that Christianity causes people to get divorced? Not exactly. For this, I think we should go to the expert. Not in divorce, but the resident YouTube expert in fundamentalist Christianity. Give me just 1 second here.
Hello?
Hey, Steph, you got a second?
Yeah, what's up?
Well, basically, I'm doing a video right now about how Christians actually are more likely to get divorced than atheists and agnostics. I wanted to know what your thoughts are about how the church handled marriage and divorce. You were a fundamentalist in the United Pentecostal Church, if I'm correct. So what can you tell me about how they handled divorce?
Well, this one's a little tricky because I wasn't really married very long while I was in the church. I got married in the church, but I didn't really have much first-hand experience. But I can say what was preached over the pulpit. One thing that was made really clear was that divorce was pretty much never God's will. I think the actual phrase, divorce is never God's will, was actually preached over the pulpit. There might be instances where it was, I guess, a last resort, but Christ was always said to be a healer, and Christ was always said to, God could fix anything. So it was definitely when there are marriage problems, when your marriage is failing, go to God to fix it. And it was never really encouraged to maybe get any sort of professional help or counseling for these sort of things. It was just, God can fix it.
So they really didn't do anything to help the marriage. They just basically told them to read the Bible and pray over it. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. At least in the church I went to.
I think that explains a lot. Anything else you want to add?
Other things that are important. Well, I did notice a trend of people getting married quickly within the church. I mean, I think a lot of this had to do with the fact that you couldn't really take relationship steps. The church was anti-sex before marriage, anti-living together before marriage, and pretty much anti-going past kissing or making out before marriage. And so, you're in a relationship with someone, and there's only so far you can go, and there's only so many steps you can take. And the church said, pray about it, and if you're in love, you pray about it, you're probably going to believe that God wants you to get married if you're in love with the person. So yeah, I definitely think that there's a bit of a rush down the aisle, and they actually were against any sort of engagement longer than 6 months, because the whole thing was, you might be more tempted to have sex because you're going to get married. So I hope that answers your question.
In fact, it does. Thank you very much. Loving Doubt, everyone. Thanks a lot, Steph.
Sure, no problem.
So as we can see, Christianity isn't causing divorce so much as it's not preventing it. And it also, on the other hand, is maybe causing bad marriages. On the one hand, when a couple has problems in their marriage, as is inevitable, they're going to the church because that's what is taught, to go to the church, go to God, and to pray over it, when that really obviously is not solving the underlying problems. And remember, this is just the ones that are actually getting divorced. It says nothing about the ones that are remaining unhappily married without any means to fix the problems that they have. Then, as Stephanie went into, there are a lot of people that are horny, and they might want to actually have sex at some point, so they are actually going to jump in and get married as soon as possible. This causes people to jump into marriages when they're not ready. And I know a number of people that have gotten married very, very early on for exactly this reason. One of my parents actually got engaged after only the third date. And they were married, I think, less than 6 months later. They divorced 10 years later, but I'm sure they didn't have anything to do with it. Now, some of you might actually be thinking that the study itself is somehow wrong. If you do, I encourage you to go to the link below and check out the pages that I'm getting it from. Let me read you a few of the quotes, though. Barna's results verified findings of earlier polls that conservative Protestant Christians, on average, have the highest divorce rate, while mainline Christians have a much lower divorce rate. They found some new information as well, that atheists and agnostics have the lowest divorce rate of all. George Barna commented that the results raised questions regarding the effectiveness of how churches minister to families. The data challenge the idea that churches provide truly practical and life-changing support for marriage. This one's another good quote. Donald Hughes, author of The Divorce Reality, says, "In the churches, people have a superstitious view that Christianity will keep them from a divorce, but they are subject to the same problems as everyone else, and they include a lack of relationship skills. Just being born again is not a rabbit's foot." Hughes also claims that 90% of the divorces mentioned actually take place after the people have been saved, not before. Now, going on to what the founder, George Barna, said about the study, while it may be alarming to discover that born-again Christians are more likely than others to experience a divorce, that pattern has been in place for quite some time. Even more disturbing, perhaps, is that when those individuals experience a divorce, many of them feel their community of faith provides rejection rather than support and healing. But the research also raises questions regarding the effectiveness of how churches minister to families. The ultimate responsibility for a marriage belongs to the husband and wife, but the high incidence of divorce within the Christian community challenges the idea that churches provide truly practical and life-changing support for marriages. I also think you should read the first criticism of the study. David Popenow, co-director of the National Marriage Project at Rutgers University, has said that the survey doesn't make sense. He based this belief on his assessment that Christians follow biblical models of the family, making a bond that, quote, the secular world doesn't have. It just stands to reason that the bond of religion is protective of marriage, and I believe it is. What's beautiful about this criticism is that it actually goes a long way towards proving the Bible wrong as far as marriage is concerned. What Popenow is saying is that, well, according to the Bible, Christians should have the strongest marriages. Well, obviously the Bible's wrong. So, thank you, Mr. Popenow, for pointing that out. The only criticism I think actually might apply a little bit is the one that says that it might not be the religion that's actually causing the divorce. It just happens to be a coincidence that a lot of people who are in these types of denominations are lowly educated and have lower incomes, and therefore their divorce rate is going to be higher. But at this point, you're going to have to say that is the religion just causing a lack of education, which is causing divorce? Either way, religion seems to be the foundation of the issue here. So, what I would just suggest to you out there, if you are a Christian and you are having marital problems, I'm not telling you to give up your religion. I'm just telling you to seek support outside of it. Because if you don't, you are either probably going to be very unhappy for your life, or you're going to wind up getting divorced, like many people in my family have. Have a nice day. Honest Discussioner, out.